Good morning. Today we are factoring polynomials. We're actually going to be just factoring what we call trinomials. Trinomials, the word tri means that we're going to be having three terms. 1, 2, 3 on each polynomial. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So each polynomial that we're going to factor today will be a trinomial. And we're going to use the trial and error method. At the very beginning when you guys work through this, it's going to be just a little bit challenging, but the more you do this, you guys will get very fast and it'll become much easier. But it's a little learning curve that you have to be patient at first. We have learned how to multiply two binomials by using FOIL or the distributive property. When we multiply 2x minus 3, multiply by x plus 1, we distribute the 2x times the x and the 2x times the 1. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 1 is positive 2x. Now we're going to distribute the negative 3 to each of the terms on the right hand side. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 1 is negative 3. Next, we're going to be combining our like terms. And that will give us a negative 1x. Now the reverse process is called factoring. And we are going to be dealing with the two types. When the last term is positive, that means that they both have to have the same sign. They both should be positive or both negative. If the last term is negative, because whenever we multiply two numbers that end up with a negative, one of them should be negative and the other one should be positive. Remember, if the last one's positive, they both should have the same sign, because whenever you multiply, you need to end up with a positive 7. Right? Negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7. Over here, if the last one's negative, one of them should be negative, the other one should be positive, in order that we end up with a negative number when we multiply. And those are the only rules that you need to memorize. So let's go start with the first one. I'm going to place my double parenthesis. And my factors of 5x squared are, what do I need to multiply together to end up with 5x squared? So my factors of 5x squared are 5x multiplied by x. Now the rest I'm going to do with my pencil because I'm going to have to erase. So the last number is negative. That means that one of them should be positive, the other one should be negative. The factors of 3 are 3 and 1, or 1 and 3. I'm going to use 1 and 3. I'm going to multiply together and I'm going to place it inside the box. So I'm going to multiply. 5x times x is 5x squared. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. I just want to make sure that the middle term is positive 2. So I'll multiply together. That gives me, so I'm multiplying 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x. I'm going to multiply x times 1 is 1x. Positive. If you add them, negative 14x. If you add them, it needs to end up with the same number, the same middle term. So in this case, do I end up with a positive 2? No. So let's go and erase it. And I'm going to switch my 3 and my 1. So it'll be my 3 on top and my 1 on the bottom. And let's multiply once again. (5x times negative 1 will be negative 5x. X times 3 is positive 3x. If I add them together, different signs, I'm going to subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number, so it's negative. I need to end up with a positive 2x, but I ended up with a negative 2x. If you end up with the opposite, we just need to change the sign. So that means that this should be a negative, and that should be a positive. So when I multiply together, that gives me positive 5x, that gives me negative 3x. If I add them together, this gives me positive 2x. And what I want you guys to do, I want you guys to highlight it to confirm. That should be the same. And that's it. Let's continue with problem number letter B. I'm going to use my double parenthesis. Factors of 5x squared are 5x and x. The last term is negative, so it means that one of them should be positive, the other one should be negative. The factors of 14 are 14 times 1, so I can use 14 times 1, or I can use 2 times 7. I'm going to try 2 and 7 first. If it doesn't work, then I need to use 14 and 1. So 2 and 7. I'm going to multiply it out. So x times positive 2 gives me positive 2x. 5x times negative 7 is negative 35x. If I add them together, they have different signs. So I must subtract, keep the sign of a bigger number. I need to end up with a positive 3x. No, so that didn't work. So I'm going to switch my 7 and my 2. Don't worry, the more you do this, the easier it's going to get, and you guys will be able to say in your head before you actually place those numbers. So I'll place my 7 above and my 2. So that gives me negative 10x, and that gives me 7x, positive. If I add them together, it gives me negative 3x. I need it to be a positive 3x. Therefore, I'm not going to change my sign. I'm going to change my negative to the top, my positive to the bottom. So my negative on top and my positive on the bottom. When we multiply it out, it gives me positive 10x, and that gives me negative 7x. If I add them together, it gives me positive 3x, and that's perfect, it matches. So my factors is 5x minus 7 and x plus 2. If I multiply it out, I will end up exactly with what I have above. Let's continue with letter C. Double parenthesis. Factors of 2x squared are 2x times x. Now the last term is positive. That means that they both should be positive or both negative. When I add them, I need to end up with a negative number. So therefore, both of them should be negative. Now if you try positive, that's fine. Then you might have to switch the signs. So if the last one's positive, they both should have the same sign. They need to add up to a negative number. So that means that they both have to be negative. The factors of 6 are 6 times 1 and 2 times 3. You have to try them. You can't just expect it to work the first time. So let's try 6 and 1. 6 and 1. Let me multiply it out. That gives me negative 2x. And some of you guys are already seen it in your head, oh, that won't work. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. If I add them, will it give me negative 7x? No, that gives you negative 8x. So that does not work. Now let me switch my 6 and my... I'm going to switch my 6 and my 1. And I place my 1 in here and my 6 here. That gives me negative 12x and negative 1x. That doesn't work. So 6 and 1 did not work. I'm going to try 2 and 3. Let me erase it. So because you have a big eraser handy for this lesson. So I have a negative on both. Let me use my 2 here and my 3 here. So that gives me negative 4x, and that gives me negative 3x. If I add them, it gives me negative 7x. Does that work? Yes.